For Off the Block, I'm Vinny Lopes, and we are now joined by the head coach of the defending EIVA champion, Sam Shweisky, as his team is preparing for the upcoming 2020 season. And, Coach, we have to ask you to start off with, it's a question that's been on a lot of the volleyball fans' minds. Had a strong senior class that left, obviously, but you look at the players coming back, you look at your recruiting class. Do you feel this 2020 Princeton team has a chance to be the best team in Tigers program history?
Wow. I think that's a very big statement. I think certainly looking at the physical talent that we have, there's a lot of guys in the gym that are incredibly physical, jump high, hit hard. And so, yeah, I would say absolutely. I think it's certainly possible. I think something that we realized last year, losing Corey Short, Kendall Ratter, Billy Andrew, I think we knew, sort of notwithstanding the number of kills and blocks and points that they were going to graduate with, was a tremendous amount of leadership that was going to leave our program. And so we've spent a lot of time this fall really focusing on how do we fill those really special voids of leadership. And so, I think, yes, there's a lot of talent in the gym, and we're certainly excited about that. But a lot of the work that goes into making a team run comes from inside the team, and that's sort of where our focal point has been.
Well, Coach, I want to delve a little deeper on that in terms of leadership. What are some of the big characteristics that you are noticing from emerging leaders and people kind of taking that next step to become leaders on the team?
Well, I got to give a shout-out to two sophomores that have done a really good job. Jared Nelson and Nate Thompson have stepped up a lot in the last few months and just really done the little things that you would expect from leaders. They come early to practice, set the nets up, they stay late, and sort of, a lot of the facility stuff, nobody wants to put nets up or take nets down at win games and stuff like that, but they're just always sort of around the scenes doing things like that, organizing lifting times when our strength coach isn't available, just sort of some of the stuff behind the scenes that they're able to do. I've been really pleased with making comments to the guys and motivating them to practice, holding them accountable, just a lot of those kind of leadership skills that we're looking for. So those two guys in particular have done a really nice job.
Yeah. And, Coach, obviously this offseason, George Human had a great opportunity to play with the U.S. men's national team or still call it World League, but the Volleyball Nations League. I want to ask you, what have you seen in his game in terms of any improvements, just his opportunity to play around that high caliber of volleyball?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was really incredible honor to watch George on that stage. But then also I got a chance to coach with him, and Cody Kessel, another Princeton Tiger, was on the team that we went to Canada with the men's senior national team. And it was really cool to kind of be actually, not just a fly on the wall, but be in the coaching gym with him and see him play with TJ DeFalco and, Brendan Sander and some of those top guys, Micah Ma'a. And it was great. Obviously, George is a tremendous attacker and his net play, but to watch him do some of the ball control stuff, drills that the national team does, and to see him really fit in on all levels, from just the way he contacts the ball on defense and ball control at a system setting, that was just really a sort of a nice thing to see his game progress on all levels. So, and that's been a great thing for us in our gym. I mean, obviously he's a talented attacker, he does a great job at the net, but kind of to see his overall game improve has been really cool, and I think it's starting to rub off on some of the guys, which has been great. I'd also say, George is not a man of many words, but I would say that, his experience being with that team at that level of professionalism, I think has brought a heightened level of awareness to his job and role as a team leader. And so he's doing a really nice job being more vocal in team meetings and organizing guys and getting guys focused on the group me and stuff like that. So I've been really proud of him and what he's been able to bring to our program this year.
I have to ask, one of the most interesting things about Human, obviously playing that hybrid position, middle and opposite, but with his improvement so much in the attacking game, is there any consideration of having him permanently go opposite, or are you still liking the hybrid for 2020?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something we scratch our head with and sort of try to figure out every day in practice. And, he was the true opposite 2 years ago and was incredibly successful there. And, I think sometimes it's looking at the whole picture and seeing, do we have guys in the middle that can fill those voids, or what is the best 6 or 7 guys look like on the floor, and how does he make guys around him better? So I don't know the answer. We're definitely going to experiment with some of that in the rest of our fall, and then I'm pretty sure, knowing me and Coach Pat, we'll be mixing lineups up and trying different things as we get through the beginning of January and maybe even February. So I wish I could give you an answer, Vin, but we'll have to sort of wait and see.
Well, Coach, talking about one thing that you have is definitely depth at the pin, not only talking about George Human, but players like Parker Dixon. You have a really great freshman recruiting class with players who have international experience or at international tournaments. Can you just talk a little bit about what that depth is like that you're seeing at practice from your outside attackers and how difficult this could be for you trying to determine a starting lineup?
Yeah, it's a really incredible, fortunate problem to have, right? I think some years we've sort of seen, okay, wow, these are probably the starters, and then these are some of the supplemental guys. But this year, yeah, the gym is packed with high-flying, intelligent attackers. Obviously, you know names like, George Human, Greg Luck, Parker Dixon, and some of the highly touted recruits, James Hartley, Alex Mackay at the pin attackers. But again, Nate Thompson, Jared Nelson, Jess Hunt, Brady Webbush, we've got guys sort of been in the program that have been coming up and getting stronger throughout the summer and stuff like that. So it's an incredibly competitive gym, and it's been a lot of fun to kind of battle and see who's going to sort of push each other. And, the nice thing is, as seasons go, not everybody is on their game the whole year. So it's kind of nice to have a guy on the bench kind of, raring to go. And if a guy is off his game a little bit, somebody else can step in and still keep it at a high level. So, it's a good problem to have. I'm kind of scratching my head and waiting for my assistant coach, Pat Schwarn, to finish up with his tremendous run with the women's program. And as soon as we get him back in the gym full time, I think we'll knock our heads together and start figuring some of the stuff out. But, it's been fun so far for sure.
And, Coach, I want to ask you, obviously, last season there were so many firsts for you guys. There were so many things you hadn't done in a long time, whether it was winning the EIVA championship, winning an NCAA tournament match. But then, obviously, against Pepperdine, had a chance to pull a big upset, lost them in 5 games. And I want to ask, what's kind of been the mindset of the players this season? And looking back at that postseason run, was there more kind of just happy that they were there, or did they feel not necessarily that they left something on the table, but they had a chance and against Pepperdine, and that's a little bit extra motivation for this year?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it was such a storybook ending for us. I mean, to host the EIVA championship, to play Penn State, to win in a 5-set match with a packed house, to go off to play Barton and then to play Pepperdine in Long Beach with so many California alumni and fans and friends, to go to the 5th set, to have the senior class really pour their heart out. I mean, to have Kendall Ratter, I don't know how many kills he had or what he hit, but it just seemed like he hit 1,000. It just seemed like every kill, every ball he touched turned to gold. To have Billy Andrew come in and play like that and Cole Short, I mean, it was just such a beautiful thing. I think that's kind of the feeling that we just want to chase again, and I think for 10 years we had been saying, like, man, the 98 team made it to the Final Four. We're chasing that. We got to try to do that again. And now it's like, you know what, except for the freshmen, everybody was here, lived through that, and it was awesome. It was so much fun. Let's try to do that again. And I think, it's really easy to be dialed in and be motivated come April. When things are sort of shifting out in April, it's really easy to be like, okay, the goal is in sight, and I think there's been just guys reminding each other, like, hey, let's empty the tank today in practice. You don't know what small margin of error it's going to be come April. Let's try to empty the tank now and try to get back to what we did last year, because it was so much fun. And, I think that's sort of the mix of outcome goals and process goals. Outcome goals are great. It's exciting to say, could we be the most, physically talented team in Princeton volleyball history? We could. Could we have the best, season ever? We could. But what can we do about it today? We can try to work as hard as we can today to get 1% better. And that's kind of been where our focus has been.
Well, and Coach, a lot of pundits may say that you're the preseason favorite going in, but there's a caveat that the EIVA is a really good conference. Can you just talk about the depth that you're expecting from the EIVA this season and some of the competitiveness that we could see in the conference?
Yeah, I would say, not to get too political on you, but the pundits sort of missed the mark on the 2016 election. And pundits, I understand where it comes from. We have returning guys and we have a nice recruiting class. But at the end of the day, rally score volleyball is won by small margins, and there's an X factor that comes down to, like, who is training the hardest and who wants it the most. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of hungry teams in our conference right now. We've played in a great fall tournament at Messiah College. They hosted Sacred Heart, us, George Mason, St. Francis, NJIT. We had 5 of the 8 EIVA programs there, and it was fantastic. And I don't know, man. I don't know our record, but we certainly won a few games, and we got punched in the face a couple times as well. So there's some really strong teams in our league. I would suspect the EIVA to be an absolute dogfight this year. I really am excited to see what the EIVA teams can do out of conference. I think this could be a year you might see several EIVA teams sort of making some noise against the MIVA, the MPSF, and the Big West, as well as Conference Carolinas. So that's kind of exciting, and it keeps you on your toes, because I think sort of gone is the day of a one dominant team conference. I think there were some years where Penn State was just so talented and so far above everybody else, and I think right now certainly Penn State is going to be a tremendous team this year. But I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be battling for ground, and it makes for a fun environment.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you talked about having to do the little things in rally scoring. One of those little things that is also a pretty big thing is serving. I want to ask you, you obviously lose an absolute bomber in Kendall Ratter, who graduated, but how do you feel your team serving is looking this fall?
That's a great question, and I think serving obviously in the men's game has sort of ebbed and flowed with different philosophies, and I think there was a point in time where certain coaches were saying, yeah, just hit the ball as hard as you possibly can and try to score an ace, and no matter what else happens. And I think you see the best teams. I mean, if you watch the last couple of years, Hawaii, Long Beach, some of these teams, they had bombers, but they had guys that were cut-shotting and really floating with depth and range and stuff like that. So, we're trying to take a page out of some of those guys' books and figure out, do we have some guys that can bring heat? Do we have some guys that can serve seams and change things up? And then probably the most important skill, do we have guys that can have high enough volleyball intelligence to sort of read the tempo and flow of the game and know what is appropriate when, and how well are we siding out, and how well is the opponent in certain rotations. And that's stuff that is really hard to teach. I mean, you can watch film and try to educate guys, but so much of that is sort of an innate feel for the game. So it's certainly a focal point for us, but it's hard to replicate the kind of the environment of serving in a real match. And so I think, we're going to keep focusing on it, and we're excited with the arms that we have in the gym, but we can't wait to play some real matches and have some real data points to look at and sort of look at our guys and say, okay, this was a great choice here, and this was a smart opportunity there, and kind of go from there and see how it goes.
All right, Coach, and final question, we'll let you go on this. You kind of look at the EIVA as a whole and kind of talking about, what they could do in non-conference. I want to ask you, what's one or two of the non-conference matches that you're most excited about this upcoming season?
I would say, our non-conference schedule is pretty packed, and we're pretty excited about a lot of it. We get to go out to California twice. The first trip, playing UC Irvine is going to be fantastic. I know Coach Diffin and I are, taking a risk playing each other so early, but I think, it's going to be early for both of us, and it should be a lot of fun. We got a great exhibition match scheduled with Pepperdine, which should be fantastic. And then we get to play in the Galen Center against USC, which should be awesome. Our second trip back against UC San Diego will be great, and then we're at UCLA, and we've got a match with Cal State Northridge, which should be fantastic. But probably the most exciting one is that UCLA is coming to us. We've only had one other program, BYU, in program history, in the 40-something years we've had a program, to have a West Coast team come play us. So to have a team like the UCLA Bruins in our gym is going to be pretty exciting. It's a Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock, so I don't know what kind of crowd we're going to get, but it's going to be a lot of fun having them in there for sure. And then getting to go out to Chicago, playing Lewis and Loyola and Emmanuel when we're out there in Chicago should be a lot of fun. So those are kind of some of the matches that we're looking forward to out of the non-conference.